My father was in the Army during World War II. He was in London. And he kind of resisted me going in when I got that idea. But my mother was more than happy to have me move out. She was ready to be an empty nester. He didn't have good experiences. He was there during the Blitz. And later in life, he actually started reliving it and trying to get my mom to go under the bed. They were in a nursing home, and it was the main thing I remember him talking about was KP duty. He did not like KP duty. I had a brother-in-law that had been in the Navy, and he was just a real big influence on me. I was still in high school when my sister married him, and I also had a boyfriend that had gone in, and we weren't close or anything, but it was a guy that I knew, and I kind of followed him a little bit, but it was more my brother-in-law that encouraged me. I didn't even consider another branch. When I was a child, this is a funny thing. When I was a child, my father was a high school band director, so we had music in the home all the time, and he had a record of marches and stuff. And my favorite song was Anchors Aweigh. I don't know why. And my father finally hid the thing because he got so sick of hearing it because I played it over and over and over. And when I was in, then I realized one time it hit me, oh, Anchors Aweigh. So it was natural for me. I didn't even consider another branch. Well, I went down, I was skipping, my parents encouraged me I was trying to find my way. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was in secretarial school and I hated it. And my parents, so my friend was skipping school and I skipped out on mine, and we went, and she says, well, let's go down and talk. She had always talked about going in the military. She said, let's go down and talk to the recruiters. So I went down and took the test, and as soon as they saw my results, they nabbed me. And I thought, well, this might be kind of neat, get out of Iowa. Never felt too comfortable in Iowa. I hated the winters. So that was what got me going on it. My friend never did go in. We're still friends. But she went ahead and got her master's degree, which I did too later on. But and I've told her, I said, it's all your fault that I went in. I was in Davenport, and they sent me to Des Moines, Iowa, there was a fort there, I can't remember the name of it, where I did the physical and stuff. And then I still didn't go in, but eventually I took the bus out of town and ended up in Maryland, Bainbridge, Maryland, for boot camp. Well, I came in late at night. Everybody was already in bed. So they showed me a bunk, and, I went to sleep. And I woke up everybody was yelling, reveille, reveille, secure your ears. I'm going, secure? What's that mean? I didn't know what it meant. I was really naive about the military. But I caught on fast enough and made it through it. Boot camp, I kind of liked boot camp because it was the regiment, the camaraderie and everything. Well, I didn't want to go to school. That's why I went in the military, because my parents were pushing me to go to school or something, and so I told them I don't want to school. So I worked in an office there at Bainbridge. I got stationed there for 3 years after that, and enjoyed it. I mean, we went dancing every night of the week at the E Club. There were like 50 men for every woman, so I had a great time. Actually, what I did was I processed, my main job during that time was I processed security clearance paperwork for people. I had to fingerprint all the guys that went through. And I actually met a guy that I'd known from back home doing that. I went, you're Rick from down Rock Island, and I enjoyed it. It was more adventurous than living in Iowa. Yeah, I got out after my 3 years. And so I went to the recruiters back home in Iowa, and I said, I'll go back in if you give me the West Coast. So they sent me to San Diego, California, and I loved that. Well, then I did want to school, and I told them I'd go back in if they'd send me to a school. And so then I went to San Diego for a year, and then I got orders to Denver, Colorado, Lowry Air Force Base, and got trained as an IT, intelligence specialist. IS. It's been a while. And got trained on that, but basically I was one of the first women that went through that school. They had just opened it up to women, and I think there was one class before us that had one girl, and then there were two in mine, and we learned how to recognize things from photos, aerial photos and stuff like that. and I got orders to Atsugi, Japan, and I spent 9 months there. And what I did there was I briefed the pilots before they took off on a P-3 that was spying on Russia on the Sea of Japan. And I briefed them, and then I was in touch with them by phone. They had contact with an Air Force base, and then the Air Force base would call me and tell me what was going on. Excuse me. And during the 9 months that I was there, only once did I get a call where they had been shot at. And I had to run down the hall and tell the real top secret people that had happened. And I never heard any more about it, so I don't know. Well, actually, I was in a detachment out of Guam, and I never did get to Guam. But I was the only girl in the whole detachment. But there were other girls in other base commands there. And so I did have a room in the dorm with the girls and stuff. But it was rough. While I was in San Diego, I had started dating a guy from my hometown. We went to high school together. And so we got married in Japan. His ship was over there. So before his ship went back, we went to the embassy and got married. And he was out in the hallway trying to find witnesses. And the 2 Marine guards said, are you looking for a witness? And I said, yeah. And they said, we'll do it. And I've always wanted to look those guys up, but I never have. And so they witnessed our marriage. And then we had to go somewhere else in town. It's kind of like in Winds of War, if you ever read that book, where they had to go all over town, but they didn't know exactly when they were married. It was like that. We didn't know which one made us legal. But anyway, we honeymooned on the bullet train up and down in Japan. And my husband was quite tall, over 6 foot, and to the little Japanese kids, and he had a beard. And so on the bullet train, the little kids would come up to him, and he'd go, shh, and they'd giggle and run away. They were so cute. But then I was working. Then as soon as I got married, I started working for orders back with him to San Diego. But I did get pregnant, and so then I got out. And I went in the reserves for one time. And my husband, I was enlisted, and my husband was an officer, so we were kind of non-kosher. And so I didn't stay in. It was too hard to drill on the weekend and then go to a party with him that night and have to be an officer's wife, so I just got out. Wish I'd stayed in now because I would be retired from it. I did get to go, the command had an R&R time to Korea, I'm trying to think where it was. It wasn't Seoul, Osan, I think. And so I said, I want to go. So I was the only girl on the whole flight, and they actually took me up in the front, and there was, the pilot said, he had it on autopilot, but he said, do you want to push that button? And I went, yeah. So I pushed the button, and the plane banked, and it was kind of fun. So when I was a teacher at Missouri Southern, I would, in the beginning, I would do 3 questions, and 2 lies and a truth. So I would always say, I've flown a P-3. And of course, they'd guess that was the lie. And it wasn't. Most girls might not have wanted to go to Korea in the plane. I don't know. I was always an adventure seeker. That's why I went in, probably more than my brother-in-law even. I've always sought out and looked for new experiences and stuff. I was in California, and schools were pretty much free out there. I mean, $700 a semester, maybe at the most. I know. I don't think it's like that anymore. But I'm the reason why they went bankrupt almost. No, I'm kidding. I used the GI Bill to pay for the child care, mostly, because I didn't have to pay for schools. And I went to community college first, and was doing that while I was, while my husband was gone or not, either way. I remember the counselor said, what do you want to major in? And I said, well, I've been in the military, so that's all I know. Why don't I major in public administration? And that's what I did. So I've worked in city governments, nonprofits, and then higher education is what I ended up doing. I was going to move back to San Diego and get my master's degree. And then a friend told me about Branson. And I said, well, let's go down on this long weekend. So we did, and it was pretty cool. So there was a lot of activity and stuff. So I moved down there, and Crowder College was advertising. So I went and applied there and got that job as a career counselor. I managed their career center, and the die was set. That was my career then, and I did that at Crowder and Missouri Southern.
Your career?
Well, my degree, first of all. I know when I first came back, well, I was still at Bainbridge, one time my mother said something. She says, "You've gotten a little more harsh around the edges." You know, I had to stand up for myself. I've often said that I didn't go and fight a war, but I had to, you know, it was a hard thing for a woman to do, for a young girl to do. And I'd never even had a brother, you know, so it was really strange, yeah, for me. But I learned and I changed. Well, speak up for yourself. And that happened too when I went to Crowder, because I was in a department, but my department was quite a ways away from them, and I knew nobody in that whole town. So I really had to fall back on that, I think, strength that I'd learned in the military. I don't know where, I'm glad I'm at an age where I don't have to worry about it anymore, but I grew to kind of feel a little bit guilty about it. And I was especially guilty. Like when I moved to Branson, there in every one of those shows, they have you stand up if you're a veteran. And I always felt guilty doing that too, because I didn't really fight a war. I just had fun in it, you know, an adventure and stuff. And I always kind of felt like I was cheating. Well, actually, I see a massage therapist, and her daughter's going in the Air Force. And she's going into something where she has to do a polygraph and top secret clearance already and stuff. And I can't remember what it is, some kind of a I don't know what it is. But, and I've been encouraging her. I mean, she's already going in. I don't have any say in it, but I've said, "Oh, that's great," you know, and stuff like that. And I've told her, I said, "Just be prepared. It's a hard life for a woman. It can be a hard life." There'd been women in before. In fact, when I moved here, I live in an independent living center. When I lived here, there were 2 women that had been in during World War I. Not in the Navy maybe, but they had been in during the war. But that was an unusual time. So you're right, there probably weren't very many women. And a lot of the women that did come in were pretty hardcore, you know. And that was a shock for me too. I was pretty sheltered in my family. We went to church 2 or 3 times a week, and you know, it was all girls and stuff. And
in the military?
Well, as a career counselor, when I was at Crowder, I had a lot of. We had a high school there too, where kids could go to high school half the day and half the day to a shop or something like that. And so I would try and place those kids. And a lot of employers wouldn't think of hiring somebody 18 or 19. You know, they wanted somebody with a little more maturity. And I came to think that maybe we should have a required, not military always, you had a choice of military or community service for 2 years, just to get that under your belt, some maturity.